Hi guys, it's there's no Paranormal Evidence archives this week because I'm away, so I haven't had a chance to fully finish the edit for this week's episode. So I thought I'd just record a short vlog piece about something I've been looking into a little bit lately. It's called, it's something that's been on the radar for quite some time now, and I'm finding it's a very interesting subject for a lot of reasons. I'm talking about the Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect is a phenomena that people are reporting where they remember certain inconsistencies in the timeline. They remember certain inconsistencies in history, in popular culture, in a multitude of different in different ways, and this is cross-cultural. So it's cross-religion. It's it's from different people from different cultures who remember things differently. But what I find quite intriguing is the fact that though I feel that there is something to it, there's also a lot of crap that's mixed in with it, and that's just simply due down to human nature, I think. Whether or not there's actually something to it from a paranormal perspective is unclear. The jury is definitely still out on that one, and there's definitely a lot more evidence that needs to be collected. And I will be undertaking some projects over the next couple of weeks and months to talk about this in a much more general, much more specific fashion. But in order to give it a bit of background, the Mandela Effect surfaced, or at least to my knowledge, I heard about it mostly around about a year ago, so between 2014 and 2015, and it's increased in popularity, especially on social media ever since, where groups of people are remembering that Nelson Mandela passed away in 1986, I believe. It was either 1984 or 1986, and they remember the burial services, they remember the eulogy that his wife gave, all this being covered on television. Now, I remember, as much of you who watch this will remember, and to me it's absolute fact, as far as I'm concerned, that Nelson Mandela was freed from prison in 1990, went on to become Prime Minister of South Africa, and then passed away. I think it was in early 2013 or early 2014. He passed away within the last 2 years. It would have been early 2014 actually, because I remember Richard phoning me up and telling me about it. So I didn't know Richard at earlier 2013. So it's quite interesting that these sorts of things have surfaced, and there are many examples, most of which are not really credible. A lot of them are picked up from popular culture, such as one of the big ones I like is people remember Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back saying, "Luke, I am your father," where he actually says, "No, I am your father." Now, to me, that actually makes a lot of sense that people would remember that, because people's memories, the collective memory or individual memory, isn't actually that strong in recalling events. If, for example, someone had a fight outside and 10 different people saw it, you'd have 10 slightly different versions of what happened, altered by that person's perception. So if they knew someone in the fight, if they were involved in the fight in some way, if they had a vested interest, if they were distracted and wasn't really paying much attention to the fight, you would have 10 different interpretations. Now, you would find the commonalities between those. So certain things like the Luke, I am your father thing that people remember, which is not actually what he says, can come down to cultural or interpretations of the line. If you look at it from a scripting point of view, "No, I am your father" makes sense. The simple fact is, if you listen to what the scene actually says, Darth Vader says, "Obi-Wan told you what happened to my father," and Luke replies, "He said you killed him," and he replies, "No, I am your father," which makes absolutely perfect sense in a conversational way, in a scripting way, it would make little to no sense if he said, Luke, I am your father. It's very similar to, but if you're referencing someone, so say for example people are playing with like toy lightsabers or something and recreating the scene, they were probably recreating the scene from the part of which they remember, which is the fact that the big reveal that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. So that's, I think, where that one particularly comes from. And this is the same for a lot of other ones that people remember in films. Interview with a Vampire, Interview with the Vampire. I always thought it was Interview with the Vampire. I remember there being arguments about it in the 1990s, so far back as, far back as then when it was first released, that people actually remembered differently what it was called. And I think that again comes down to how people interpreted sentences, and how the brain reads sentences and stuff like that as well. Because if you look into like those mind questionnaires, for example, that people have, you see them going on Facebook. You can mix words up and the sentence still makes sense because the brain has there's a word for it. I cannot from the top of my head now, because I'm doing this vlog from the top of my head. I can't think of the word for it, but there's a word for the way that the brain actually makes things, fills things in. Where it sees something it recognises and it fills in the blanks, and that's a genuine scientific methodology that's been proved several times. The other one is that it's a wonderful day in this neighbourhood. Life was like a box of chocolates. Again, they make sense within the character. To be perfectly honest with you, when you actually look into Forrest Gump, look at the scene with Forrest Gump when he sat on the bench, for example, he's referenced in the past, and it fits in with the dialogue of the rest of the movie. So I think that a lot of the Mandela effect is people simply just remembering things differently. The most compelling evidence that I found is the ones that have come out of the Bible, essentially, where people are remembering things from the Bible. I got very freaked out by one, which is the misinterpretation of the Lord's Prayer. Now, I'm not religious. People who know me will know I'm not religious, very spiritual, but I don't have a great deal to do with religion. But I know the Lord's Prayer. At least the Lord's Prayer I was taught in school, which is, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. Now, if you look, I think it's Matthew, Matthew 6:12, I think it is. The actual prayer that he recites is, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Forgive us, give us our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive those who are indebted to us. Now, that freaked me out when I seen that. But when I actually looked into a bit deeper, there are several other interpretations of that prayer that people will use. So one interesting thing to look at with that is what I think the trespasses one did come from a 1556 prayer book that was basically written around that time. And there's been many, obviously, interpretations of the Bible. The one specifically that people are referencing with the Mandela effect is the King James Bible. Now, what I find quite interesting about it is not the fact that there are several interpretations of the Lord's Prayer. It's the fact that these are people that are praying to congregations, and you would expect them to know the Bible. They quote it often enough. You would expect them to know it. So the fact that these people are realising these differences, what's happening there, in terms of why is the Mandela effect then capturing people's imaginations? So what's happening from a sociological point of view? Why is that changing? It's probably the most compelling thing I've seen so far is the JFK evidence, because that truly does not make sense to me. The JFK evidence that has been shown, and again, I will go and do this in a much more ordered way on this channel. I'm going to look into this in a much more in-depth way within the coming weeks, because I think this is the tip of the iceberg as to what people are remembering. But the JFK stuff is quite interesting because the idea that JFK is people remember there being 4 people in the car and there were actually 6. But every sort of film interpretation, every recreation, state-sponsored reconstruction, every museum, or most museums with that reenact the JFK assassination always show 4 people in the car. So that I find is probably the most compelling evidence that I understand. The other stuff I found weird was the human body. They think that these people are remembering the human body being different. I would have to do more research into that. And there's plenty of other ones. The young ones is one that people pick up about there being a 5th member of the housemate. Now look at the young ones. This is the thing. When people are seeing things in social context, for example, look at the young ones. The young ones is synonymous for putting random things in shot. Now, how many times is it in an episode that they cut to mice playing cards? The Mandela Effect idea with the young ones is the 5th housemate. So it's a woman that appears in the background of several episodes. The only one I can see in the foreground, where she's actually sat in the foreground, you can see her face is covered by her hair in every appearance. And there is a photo with all the 4 cast members. So obviously Mike, Vivian, Rick and Neil, and she sat in front of Vivian. But it's the fact that people are only noticing this now. The only time she's ever really close up to the frame is in the opening shots of the episode Boring. She sat at the bottom of the stairs. Now, I find again that is slightly discredited because you really look into the young ones itself. Okay, people haven't come forward, the actors haven't mentioned it, the directors haven't mentioned it, and then suddenly it starts getting mentioned. There are lots and lots of hidden things in those episodes. It's the way it was put together. I think there were so many random things in the young ones that most of it didn't make sense anyway. And I was a fan of I'm still a fan of the show. It's very interesting how it's affecting us in a sense, and how it's kind of very unnerving when you look at these things, because you can look back at like the young ones, for example, and you're thinking. I look back on a digital download copy I've had for about 10 years now of the young ones I had from a friend, so I know that copy hasn't been tampered with. So I basically watched that back, and it's a very, very old copy. It's on an old hard drive I hadn't touched for at least 5 years, and those scenes, lo and behold, those scenes are in there, so there's no way that they could have been changed. And it's the idea that things that, especially obviously with the biblical changes, with the changes to things in popular culture, it's actually changing the things that people own. Is it the actual physical thing that is being changed, or is it the perception? So is it people's perception? Is there something happening to our memory, our conscious recollection of things that is? And obviously, when things get discussed online and people get together, obviously it gets emphasised. Now, I do feel there is something to it. And the reason why I feel there's something to it is because of the amount of energy that has been shifting. But I think that people are looking in the wrong direction with it. That's just a personal opinion at the moment. What I'm interested in is, first of all, how you test it. So say, for example, if you've got 100 people that do remember that Nelson Mandela passed in 1986, you can't like sort of record that bit of history, because if something like that had changed and all our memories have changed with it, then there's no way, and that would basically be discredited anyway by any sort of mainstream thinking. It would just be discredited as people just remembering things wrong, confabulation. Fair enough. But okay, from the point of view of this being a paranormal event, how would you debunk it then? Because that's when you go into looking into paranormal things, whether it's hauntings, whether it's spirits, whether it's whatever it might be. When you look into these accounts, you're looking for commonalities. So to give an example, the last paranormal evidence archives we had 5 different sources that were corroborating the same information. That is pretty good evidence, because you've got different things corroborating the exact same thing from different areas that didn't have any prior connection to each other. That was reasonable. That's what you're looking for when you actually really, for reals, is doing this sort of research. So the first thing I would do is to interview 100 people or have 100 people take a survey and actually give what details they remember of Nelson Mandela passing in 1986, and see if there are actually any commonalities in there. See if there are things that you can actually string together, so at least you can get a picture of what people are remembering. Are we remembering things collectively the same, or are we remembering things collectively different? Because there are obviously experiments that have been done, like the 100 Monkeys experiment, for example, most people who work spiritually or work this sort of way know this anyway, that we are all connected. Consciousness is connected. We are not separate. But from an investigative standpoint, I personally want to see why this has affected so many people, why it's sort of cutting them so deeply. When people are having personal shifts in their timeline, now I've had this quite a bit. I've had a lot of time anomalies around me in the last 3 years. I've had information about time, so I believe this is happening to people, and I believe that they're having an experience. It's just I don't believe the hype about it. And I feel that there's things about the Mandela effect that kind of need testing. So this is what I'm going to do, is over the course of the next couple of weeks and months, is I'm going to design some surveys that will look into the more credible aspects of the Mandela effect, and look into ways that people remember things, what they remember, take samples of people, so people might not even be aware or be part of that sort of community, and see, because if it's affecting, is it affecting everyone equally, or is it affecting certain types of people? If so, what's the commonalities between those types of people, and really get some quantitative research on what people are remembering. And I think that's what this needs to sort of move it forward. Is it something that's designed to create fear? So is there some sort of psyop going on here with it, or is it just hysteria developing for hysteria's sake? I personally don't believe that. I again, it's one of them things that I'm just sort of talking this, and I would prefer having much more information about it so this is going to be a work in progress on this channel over the course of the next couple of weeks and months, where we talk about, because there's much more information that I've got coming into my awareness about it, but not enough that I would like to give a definitive talk about at the moment. This is just something that I'm doing off the cuff, and just making you guys aware. If you are interested in the work that we'd like to do with regards to the surveys that we're going to put out to study the effects of the Mandela effect, then let us know in the comments below. You can also send us a quick email to info@spiritualworlds.co.uk. That's info@spiritualworlds.co.uk. Let us know your experiences with the Mandela effect, and let us know what you think of the comments I've made thus far. As I said, I'm open-minded to it. I believe the timelines are shifting. I believe that there's definitely energy shifts happening, and I've seen all this for myself. But I think there's a lot more qualitative and a lot more quantitative research that can actually go into the phenomena to see if we can get some sort of accurate picture as to what's going on here, and obviously just investigate it rather than people bitching and moaning about it. Actually investigate it. Why is it happening? Why are people being affected by this phenomena? And let's see where that goes. If you like that idea, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. There will be much more about this in the coming weeks and months, and along with obviously other talks and evidence from our paranormal investigation work. It's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you today, and take care of yourselves. I'll be back soon with another video. Take care.